Hello there, design friend. Let me tell you why you want to become a member of the Circle of Trust today. Because it's the 18th episode of the DKNG show. What? That means that there's 18 of these bad boys for you to sign up, download, and listen to. About 36 hours, a full work week worth of great information about design, building a boutique business, and what it really looks like out there on the front lines of building a business based off of your passion and your dreams. But the reason why you want to sign up today is because in the Circle of Trust, we've got a massive COT, over an hour and a half more of Dan Culkin and Nathan Goldman, where we not only look at 3 of their recent posters, Leon Bridges, 2 for Jack White, we play the process videos, and we talk out all the different things that they're doing. So the amount of technique and design thinking that you'll hear is massive. But then we finish up the show. The boys recently put a series of posters online, and people try to pull a fast one on DKNG. They figured out what was going on. They reacted. They had to set up new terms in their shop. This is explained in the Circle of Trust. This type of content exists on this show and this show only. We're creative professionals that are really making a dent in what modern design and modern business looks like. Come onto my show, hang out with me once a month, and share industry insight with you at home. Whether it's DKNG, Lincoln Design Co., Dan Styles, Delicious Design League, the folks over at Violent Gentlemen, you name it, our crowd is rich in experience and creativity, and they're willing to share it all to you for a low monthly price, and also give you the archive of over 800 episodes just like the one today that literally is the missing link or the key to your future. I'm not overselling it because I know all of this information is valuable. I've had a couple of different careers. I've been around the block a couple of times. It's not easy making a living based off of what you love, but it is possible. And I only wish that this existed when I was younger. And that's exactly why I show up every day, is to help show other creatives the way. I know this is a hard sell, but it's in my heart, and I know that it's right for everyone to sign up, become a member, and help AID keep coming to you and bringing this type of information to you Monday through Friday. Let's get started with DKNG 18 right after this. Hey friends, thank you so much for listening to the DKNG show on Adventures in Design. Did you know that today's show and every show is sponsored by my friends and your friends over at jackprince.com? Fall is right around the corner. I mean, we're getting there. Each week it's going to get a little bit cooler wherever you are, even in Southern California. That means it's time to layer up, and why not layer up with a beautiful independent trading company hoodie, right? Blank hoodies available in different sizes, different colors. You can articulate print locations in the front, the back, left side, left sleeve, left hood, right side. Basically, inside the label, wherever you want to put your mark on a hoodie, you can do it with our friends over at jackprince.com. And just imagine upselling to your customers with a more premium item that has a more premium profit built inside of it, or talking your clients into maybe this fall creating some hoodies with your new design on it. Slim fit, extra soft, heavyweight, lined hoods, free shipping, discount code jackprince.com/circle of trust. Get your hoodie started now. Get your brand ready for fall. Remember to follow along with the DKNG show by being a member of the Circle of Trust. Log in where you download the episode. We have a gallery showcasing every piece of artwork that's mentioned on the show today and a little bit more. AIDpodcast.com.
You're listening to the AID Network.
Coming to you live from the Saul Rosenberg Studios, broadcasting worldwide into all ships at sea, here comes another action-packed episode of Adventures in Design.
Good morning, friends, and welcome to the DKNG show, which today turns 18. That's right, our podcast can vote. And even though the logo is red, I have a feeling it's going to be a part of a blue wave on the show every time we do the DKNG show. I can't do it all by myself. I mean, I think of all these designs, I illustrate all these designs, I do the typography, I give the life advice, and then I delegate it over to Dan Goldman and Nathan Culkin.
Almost got there. You were half right.
People confuse us with each other all the time, so that totally works.
Well, according to my phone, when I do speak text, you guys are called DCNU.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah, I was like, are we doing like, is this all covering Trump or what's going on with this podcast?
On the show today, our 10 favorite Trump book covers. That's going to just rip through and we'll have a good time. No, I was speak texting and it literally spelled out DKNG, DCAND, and then the letter U. And I'm like, come on, Siri, you could do better than that.
Yeah. How's you converted from G?
I don't know.
Understand that.
I mean, I know I speak a little Southern, but I don't think I'm that bad.
Unless you're saying and Jew.
Oh, God, please, Dan. You know the hate speech is always left for me on this show.
Just got to get out early.
One of the things that reminded me of, though, and I always love when you see corporations like pounce on something that's cool. Over on MSNBC, there is a news reporter they have, and her name's Casey. And they started a show called Casey DC, and it's Casey covering news in DC. And I'm like, that is so awesome, Casey DC. I mean, come on, man. How do you not want to root for that show?
Parody for that?
What's
like
that?
Lightning bolt down the middle.
Oh, it's so good. For those about to rock, Casey DC. All right. What we got planned for you folks today on the DKNG show is an all poster show. I've got so many letters in front of me. Enough of talking about the logos. Enough of talking about the illustrating. Can we please get a DKNG poster show? They've been begging for this. It's been something that everybody's requested before we did the first episode. 17 in. We're giving in, and we're giving you a DKNG all poster episode for episode 18 today.
All grown up.
All grown up. So let's jump into this. This is a wild project. The boys recently were tasked to do a poster series. And as you know, that's kind of a good thing for your studio to get a poster series because it means lots of work. It's kind of a bad thing for your studio because it means lots of work and lots of management, lots of moving pieces. And, I remember when I got hired to do all the posters for Red Lobster Shrimp Fest, I mean, it blew apart my career. I mean, it really did. That was the thing that took me from mediocre to like, man, he did like 50 prints for Shrimp Fest. And I was on the Shrimp Fest circuit for years.
You even dyed all your hair red just for the project. It hasn't changed since then.
Well, you remember that Shrimp Fest tour that I was on where I grew out dreads and then I dyed them all orange. And so it actually looked like I had a head full of shrimp.
Oh, God. It's gross. King crab legs just hanging from your head.
Little cocktails. Or what's the red sauce that you dip? What is that you dip a shrimp into? Is that cocktail
sauce?
Oh, yeah.
Cocktail sauce.
I was seeing tartar sauce, but saying cocktail sauce. Little cocktail sauce earrings with my little shrimp dreads hanging down into it.
Yeah. You're like that AMPM man, just made out of seafood.
God, that guy would smell. Could you just imagine all the fucking seagulls just pecking away? Hey, get out of here. Get.
Yep, that was the last year Shrimp Fest had a mascot.
And Circle of Trash was born.
Yeah. And then I was like, there's got to be a new thing for me in this world. And then I thought, what takes an enormous amount of time is completely underappreciated, and you could probably make a poverty living off of, I'll get into podcasting. And there I went. It was right there. All right. So what you guys
I do just want to pull back the curtain for a second and mention that, Mark, I know people kind of call you out for having multiple Netflix accounts and living this Hollywood life.
Yeah.
But you have it looks like a brand new Range Rover parked in your office right now.
Oh, you want to see my whip?
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. It's garage.
Hold on. Let me pull the 10 G's off the top of it first. Yeah, I just got this 1/24 scale Range Rover that a listener sent me. Thank you, Chris Glass. And follow Chris Glass over on Instagram if you wanted to see nothing but horny pics. All right. Let's jump in here. What the boys did, calling out, whip shaming me. It's what happens when you have a replica of an $80,000 car. Behind all the
worth the price. I hope not.
Let me just tell you guys at home, I'll let you in on a secret. when I'm laughing on the show and you're like, God, he's having such a good time, there's always tears coming out of my eyes, okay? I'm the clown. I'm the sad clown
for
here.
us because we have a visual.
All right, let's do this. Let's jump in. What the boys did is you guys were tasked to create a poster series for not Coachella, not South by Southwest, not Bumbershoot, not Outside Lands, but for the Today Show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Way more viewers.
Way more viewers, way more attendees, way more high profile. You guys were tasked to design how many prints am I looking at here? I'm looking at, let me do the math. Okay, so there's a row of 5, 4 times. That gets me to 20. Then there's a row that's missing 1. That gets me to 24. But one of these posters is for Lester Holt. Does that one count? Because I didn't know that he had a band.
He does. It doesn't technically count as part of like the official series.
Yeah, that was kind of a fun thing. But if you look it up, he and his band have played on the show before. It's a legit thing where he found other crew guys on the show and we're like, let's start playing in bars around New York City together.
That's amazing. So with this poster series, you guys were tasked to create 23 prints for their summer concert series, where I believe it's exclusively on Fridays. You know, you see all those people out on the sidewalk waving, and they're like, oh, we're packed today because we've got Keith Urban out in the plaza. And then they go out and they do those little spots and everybody's waving stuff. And then eventually in the 9 o'clock hour, 8:30 hour, they'll do a song here. They'll do some more news. They'll do a song there. The thing that I always think about for the poor people on the sidewalk that are waving through the window, and then for poor Savannah Guthrie and Hoda Kutby, is that they'll be reading a story like, hey folks, bad news this morning. The young girl that everybody was hoping was alive, she was found dead. And we figured out that she was raped and murdered, and she was found dead. And then there's 2 people behind him just waving through the window.
I turned 21. Give me a shout out.
It's like,
I'm still alive.
they gotta have a dude in an orange shirt like, shoo, get away from the window.
Yeah, come celebrate.
Get away from the window right now. We have a serious story.
Oh my God.
I've always found that to be my favorite part of the Today Show. But I'm a Today Show watcher. I have it auto set to record on my DVR. I watch my scripted TV, and then as I comb through Metacritic and the Futon Critic and my favorite TV websites, trying to make sure that everything's going to record, see what new shows are dropping that day, see what's going on in the world, I have the Today Show on. I like that in 20 minutes, I can kind of get brought up to speed on what happened overnight. And the concert series is kind of one of those parts of the show that just makes it kind of fun. You know what I mean? Like, while they're bringing you all this rough and tough news, there's people out on the sidewalk seeing New York for the first time. These bands play, and sometimes if I just leave it on, I'll kind of cruise back later and be like, with the DVR, I've got a 30-minute window. Can I catch one of these songs? Because actually, one of my favorite pop song singers performed the festival this summer, which is Elisa Cara. Elisa Cara. I know I should know her name.
I said both.
Yeah, I just go both ways. But her music is fucking empowering and amazing. So that was one that I watched, and then seeing all the people waving the little things around, I'm like, all right, now this is just weird. So let's jump in here. When they contact you, what's their original concept, and how far off is this execution from what they gave you in that first email or phone call?
It was kind of open in the sense that, I mean, and I guess to start from the beginning, we should talk about what's been done in the past, because as soon as they reached out to us, I was kind of like, wait a second, this is the Strawberry Luna gig.
Yes, and
because
they'd had it for what, Nathan, 2 or 3 seasons?
We looked at 3 seasons for the stuff that they did, but it may have been even longer than that. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And they've gone through different sponsorships, and kind of the concert series has changed. But yeah, I mean, Allison and Craig have done an amazing job reinventing themselves each year. And if you look at each year of shows and posters, each one kind of has a different aesthetic, but it all kind of matches.
Yeah.
And so that's what they were looking for. They're like, we're reaching out to a few different artists to see who could possibly do this. If you guys have any ideas on what kind of style you do that could work for this, pitch us some ideas. So we were kind of in the running with a few other people. And so, yeah, we kind of put together a bit more of a pitch deck than we typically do, just to try to sell ourselves more and explain what could set us apart a bit. So yeah, once we started doing that, we, I mean, help me remember, Dan, but I think once we started getting going, we put together 2 or 3 examples of this particular style that we ended up with, just to say, here's what we're proposing. We're trying to do something very different than what you've done the past 3 years, but still keep a singular focal point on each poster. Maybe have another layer of meaning if we can pull it off. But yeah, it was pretty quick from what we presented to them saying, cool, this can be the style guide for the rest of the season.
We also had a long conversation about the amount of work we are willing to put into each poster, just considering the amount of posters that need to get done in the end.
Yeah.
Like if we were to put our DKNG HD hyper detailed stuff into every single poster,
You're not making it.
No, we're not. It's not efficient. So we kind of we determined that we basically wanted to find a style that had, you know, a threshold of detail, and kind of went towards the Jason Munn kind of look, but had our own design twist where we had add those textures and gradients. And we basically just came to a point where okay, if we're going to do this, we're going to basically narrow it down to this specific look and not go any more detailed than that. And that's when we pitched those 3 ideas, and they got on board, which actually is great, because then everything after that, we're just okay, that's as detailed as it's possibly going to get, and the concepts are kind of developed based off that.
What were the 3 ideas that you pitched? You just threw that in there, and I didn't know if what we're looking at right now. And by the way, if you're listening and you want to follow along very easily, become a member of the Circle of Trust at aidpodcast.com, where we've got everything that we talk about today in a nice gallery for you to look at. When you say you pitched 3 concepts, is this what we're looking at right here? That they'd be graphic, they'd be beachy, they'd be New York. Is that what we're talking about?
Basically, we wanted to hit certain themes. Beachy kind of summary was one of them. Mm-hmm. The other one was New York, and then the last one was some sort of callback to the musician. Yeah. And if we can hit all 3 in one poster, that's ideal. Obviously, it didn't happen exactly as planned for every single one, because every artist has different filters that we have to go through. But the first one that we pitched was the Lifeguard Tower, which was originally set to be for Jason Mraz, and then that got held back for a later artist. But the point was that it was holding in the railing a fretboard, so it was meant for a guitar player. Yeah. And that one was an example of New York's not really infused in it, but it has at least 2 things.
You know, a lot of people forget though that New York does have beaches. I mean, it sits on the ocean. Granted, they're not, white sands and green lagoon water, but it does have a beach atmosphere. And if you grow up in Long Island or you grow up in Jersey, you have memories of going down to the shore or going to Jones Beach. So I felt like a phone call and everything explodes.
I didn't like what you were saying, so I just decided to start calling you.
You can't turn off all these machines at once just to get a telemarketing phone call for my prank phone call show coming soon. But I feel like mixed in with the others that the beach ones, I don't get a vibe of California. There's not palm trees. I don't get a vibe of Florida or Miami. It doesn't have Art Deco in it. They still felt New York to me, except for maybe Dan Shea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, part of it also is that, obviously we want to relate to New York, but there's people all over the world watching the Today Show. Yeah, and so, as long as they're getting a summer feel and oh man, yeah, I'm at home doing laundry and taking my kids to school, but what if I could be there summertime in the city? That would be awesome. So just trying to create a fun vibe overall.
See, that to me is you just nailed why I like watching the Today Show, because I do I'm from that half of the country, and I still feel like New York City is the epicenter of America, and it's the heartbeat and it's the pulse. And so even though I'm sitting out here in California, waking up 3 hours later than everybody and going to just have dialed in perfect weather, I like turning on the TV and being like, ooh, it looks cold and snowy in New York this morning. And then I just walk out and rip an orange off my tree and go about my business. Hey friends, I hope you're enjoying today's episode of the DKNG show. It's sponsored by our friends over at Skillshare, where Dan and Nathan, DKNG, happen to be instructors. That's right, you can take several classes that they've made over there where you can learn how to do the logos and icons that they've been known for, how to illustrate them. They even share, as you'll learn later on in today's episode, how you do some of the tricks and techniques that they've discovered and figured out on their own, how to put so much depth and texture into your Illustrator files. If you're not aware what Skillshare is, it's an online learning platform with over 20,000 classes in design, photography, marketing, technology. They'll even show you how to run your schedule. If there's something you're trying to figure out, there's probably a Skillshare professional that's willing to show you how they got the resolve and to give you better guidance on how to get to where you want to go. Some of these classes are long format, like taking an actual college course. Some you can just watch while you sit at your desk during your lunch break, and that's a lot more productive than hanging out over on the YouTube. Listen, I'm a member. I enjoy it when I don't understand something, when I want to figure out something, whether it's Premiere, whether it's figuring out something with my camera, Photoshop. I head over there, I find a class, I sit down and I watch it, and I really, really enjoy it. And I think that you will too. Join millions of students already learning on Skillshare today with a special offer just for my listeners. Get 2 months of Skillshare for just 99 cents. That's right, Skillshare is offering Adventures in Design listeners 2 months of unlimited access to over 20,000 classes for the low price of 99 cents. To sign up, go to Skillshare.com/adventure. Again, that's Skillshare.com/adventure to start your 2 months right now. That's Skillshare.com/adventure. Thank you so much for supporting Adventures in Design and for supporting the DKNG show. Let's get back into it right now with Dan Culkin and Nathan Goldman. It's DKNG show 18 on AID 822.
And I think it's cool watching the show and seeing all the tweets and everything they're posting coming in. People being like, yeah, man, I'm having a rough morning out here in Ohio, but I turn on the show and you guys get me started. Or, it's like a lot. There's definitely a huge community, or you feel like when you're watching, there's this big community participating all over the country that, we're all kind of in this together. So, yeah, it definitely has like that warm and cozy kind of vibe to it.
I think one of the smartest thing, the producers of that show ever figured out was really integrating the city and the plaza into the show. Like, it just makes you kind of feel like you're in the city that morning. And, I love New York, and getting to see a window that's fantastic. I have to say that when Allison and Craig did this for Strawberry Luna for 3 years, 3 seasons, they did a really good job of telling the story, but I think that they were pressed a little bit harder because of the way that their studio works and the limitations that they have of outside jobs, and Allison's, really aggressively involved in the craft scene. Mm-hmm. And so, I could always, as somebody that's in this industry, and I'm not slighting them, I could always kind of see where they cut the corners, and the corners that were cut, I know the logistics and why. And I'm like, oh, and here's the thing. When you're in the industry, you don't judge people for cutting corners. You judge how smart they cut the corner. You're like, oh,
yeah, that's how you pivot.
Yeah, that's crafty. I see what they did there. And in the opposite of that emotion, I was kind of blown away of like, how are they going this graphic? Like, these posters, granted, they're not like the other prints that we're going to talk about on today's show. They're far away from Leon Bridges, The National, and what you did for Jack White. But considering that it's a 23 poster series spread out over a summer, you guys are busy living your lives, you guys are busy working for other clients, I was pretty impressed how DKNG Low D turns out. They're pretty dialed in. Like, we all know what you guys are capable of, but as far as like cutting corners, building a template, I was very, very impressed with the level of attention you guys were able to give these and keep cruising on.
Thanks. I always get a little worried that, when we put our all into a technique, that we'll get pigeonholed into being hired only to do that from here on out.
There they are. Get out. Get them. Shoot.
So, like, this was a good opportunity to show, like, our restraint, like what we can do with more minimal style. And we had to create these quickly too. So to be able to pull off something that looks polished and well thought out, but not like lazy,
Yeah.
Was a huge accomplishment for us, especially at this level of like how many were created.
I see restraint. I don't see laziness.
Yeah, that's what we're going for.
Yeah, and I mean, I think if anything like this, it can almost be a crutch to add more detail and just keep going and going. Like, let's add more textures and layers and things. And with this, it's tough. And I think one tendency we have when we do a series like this is it starts off simple and then we get more comfortable. So we're like, what if we add a little bit more to it? And then it keeps going. So the end of the series becomes way more detailed in the beginning. So this one definitely did take some restraint to every step of the way be like, oh, I think that detail's getting too small. Let's take it away. But it was also really nice having the support of the Today Show because they, some of their direction was to keep things bold and clean and I don't want to say simple, but minimal enough that you can see this thing on TV and see what you're looking at. And, obviously if you're seeing this on a TV show, you can't get, mired in looking for halftone dots and stuff. So
I
we wanted
could not
to keep it bold
enjoy
enough that it would read.
The morning that Kelly Clarkson played, I could not enjoy Since You've Been Gone because I'm like, the registration is so off in that jar. And I know they can do better jars. I've covered DKNG on the beat for years, and I know they've got a better jar in them. Damn it. Now I can't. Okay, I will. Since You've Been Gone. I can't believe what the first time I'm so moving on. Yeah. After you. Man, that song is so good and it is so fucking high. Like, it is impossible to see. I've given it all that I got in the car alone, trying to hang on with Kelly, and she just leaves me behind. I feel like that little boy running behind the dusty pickup truck. Mommy, Daddy, don't leave me. I'll be good. And just the truck just cruises off, and there's just poor little dirty Bricky. Anyways, different story.
But this job did kind of teach me that I like pop music.
Oh,
and
I love it.
When we were working on the Charlie Puth poster, I was listening to that album on repeat. It's a great album.
There's only one artist on here that I have a major bone of contention with, and it actually happened from something that I saw on the Today Show. He's talented. He's successful. We all know that. But Jason Mraz one day said something that only a person of true privilege could say. And I wanted to sit him down and go, Jason, come here, buddy. I know you've experienced this. And I know you're sharing your experience. And bless you for feeling comfortable to do that. But you're unrelatable. He said, they're like, oh, so it's been a year or 2 years since you put out a record. And he's like, yeah, that last record, I went on tour. I worked really, really hard. And I felt kind of spun out from the road. So I just took a year off. And I would suggest to everybody at home, once in your life, just take a year off. Just take a year off, get away, take a year off, and now I'm back and I feel better. And I'm like, do you know that there's a guy right now whose fingers look like Italian sausages because he has hung so much drywall and he's done so much carpentry work and he's tying on dusty work boots and he's behind on his bills. He's can't enjoy his children because he has to work 16 hours and everybody owes him money and he owes everybody money, and he's tying these shoes with these sausage fingers, and he's got old jeans on that just are covered in plaster and dust and paint, and he's going, I'm going to take a year off. I'm going to take a year off. I can't take Saturday off. I'm going to take a year off. Jason Mraz, shame on you. Shame on you for shaming us for having to work every year of our life.
One thing I did like about Jason on the show is that, most of the artists that come on, they have their like intense costume and they're so dialed in with how they want to look.
Yeah.
And Jason, so any fan that goes to these gets a lanyard with our artwork on it. That's like their all access badge to get into the concert.
And that's where you guys wearing. And that's where you guys were able to sort of hide the heavy lifting in every poster and make it look consistent, right? Like the little badge that we see on all of these in the bottom right.
Oh, right. Yeah. So that's included too. But then the artwork for each poster also gets used on the badge that all the fans wear. And Jason was the only artist that wore a badge himself, as if like they wouldn't let him in unless he was wearing his credentials.
That's
so I thought that was pretty cool that he was up on the stage performing with his admittance badge on.
So let's talk about the usage of these. Were these ever printed as actual posters?
Yeah. from what I could tell, it was badges, posters, and then signs, like with a stick.
Yeah.
So, like
an election sign, like a political sign with the
like everyone's at a rally for celebrating
the paint stirrer, and then you staple 2 of these around it.
Yeah. So it kind of starts life as the poster, which I think is, I forget what the exact dimensions are, 13 by 19 or something like that.
Okay.
And so those get printed and handed out to anyone at the show that wants to have one. I'm wondering if they kind of direct people at certain parts of the show to say, like, don't everyone hold their signs up in the air, so we're like blocking everything. But there are definitely moments that we captured where the band is taking a break and signing autographs, and the stage is just filled with all the posters waiting for them to get signed. But then a lot of people also collect the little laminated badges that are on their lanyards. And people come back year after year, so they have a little collection.
Yeah.
But that was a lot of what we saw on social media, was people sharing the artwork on the badges. And then there were those stick kind of election signs too.
Let me ask you guys a question. You put all this artwork into these 23 illustrations. Who owns this artwork now? I mean, the Today Show's in a pickle because they couldn't just rip up a merch site and sell these as T-shirts or posters or key rings or whatever, because Keith Urban's going to be like, "Hi, y'all. Good day, mate. I'm from his wife's from Australia." Keith Urban's going to be like,
"Yeah, he's from Australia too."
Is he? Hey,
yeah.
Peace off, and me need me shillings from this. But so they can't just start selling this. Yeah, they can't. Beth is out of town, so I've been talking to the dog for like 3 days. So I mean, you guys are gonna get.
Is this like a gift just to speak to us, or like
Absolutely.
finally humans?
Absolutely. I mean, I was wearing a sock on my hand yesterday while I was designing an interview in it. So, but like, so obviously their hands are tied because there's an artist name on it, and I don't know that they could sell this as merch without it. But can you guys like turn one of these into a pen or an art print, or use it? Oh, I'm working on this thing. I already did these Ray-Bans that are perfectly rendered that have flowers in the eyes. I could pop it out and put something else. Like, can this get used elsewhere, or does this all just kind of die here?
I think unfortunately it just kind of dies here. Which, I mean, we kind of know that stuff going in, and we're able to price ourselves accordingly, knowing that this is not something that's recyclable. But that being said, we make it worthwhile because, I think if we are going to do a deal like that, we kind of want to know up front, okay, how much use are we going to get out of this in the future?
Yeah.
But that could also kind of limit you a bit, in the sense that if you're constantly thinking about what the next usage is going to be, how good are you going to do with making it specific?
You're going to miss the moment. Real quick, guys, I got an ad spot I got to read here. Hey, friends, welcome to usedesigns.com. That's right. Buy, sell, and trade used designs. Do you have something that you can't use in a poster? Oh, too bad. But one of your friends surely can. Shop from over hundreds of pieces of clip art from artists like DKNG and DKNG. Useposterart.com. Sign up today. Memberships are very, very low. We'll just take whatever money you got because we can't do anything with it. All right. Nathan, did you just hold up a creature?
I did. Yeah, she's pawing at me, so we're probably going to start hearing some meows soon if I don't do something.
Oh my gosh.
You got a
This
cat.
is the first time I've heard of this cat. I mean, I've seen this cat.
Nice.
Being kind of shy right now.
Welcome to the pet world. Did that come along with the woman?
Yeah. This is Lily.
That's part of the deal.
Hey, look
Hi.
at you,
Hi,
beautiful. Lily. Look at you. Oh, that's a good-looking cat.
Might be able to hear her purring.
No.
She's being quiet now.
She just like put her face right on the mic. I love it.
Yesterday, I got to talk to Henry Mort on the show, and that was a real
Does he
blast.
sound like what we imagined?
No. Don't let down
He
the
looks
fourth
like
wall.
what we imagined.
Okay, so now let's get into this. This is what I want to know. This is what a lot of people are thinking. This many posters, obviously, I'm not asking how much money you made, but I want to know, how do you price this out? Because it's a lot of work. How many people did you have to get approval from? So you got to send out an email to Al, Hoda. Who else is going to give you? Savannah? Matt's
Lester,
gone,
all
so
of them.
that's one
Yeah,
less.
Matt was in the early discussions, but he was removed from the email chain.
He had inappropriate comments about every single poster.
Don't put me there, Dan.
So the nice thing for us is we only had one point of contact.
That's great.
And he was the art director over there that kind of distributed everything. The tricky thing with this project is that even though Today Show and NBC Universal is the main client, then they have Citibank as their sponsor for this whole thing. So Citi needs to approve everything as well. And as you know, corporations can be difficult as to what they deem is appropriate or not. And then as a third level, the artist looking at it and saying, well, he or she may have this, kind of eccentricity about themselves or something they're sensitive about. How do we avoid that in the artwork? So there were a lot of potential pitfalls. So that was tricky. But I mean, to answer your question about how we priced it, it was a per design rate, but we tried to arrive at that knowing that, the first few might be more time consuming, more tricky to just get the train moving, but then we're going to find efficiencies as we go.
Yeah, and I can understand that if you guys would say, okay, so normally, and these are just me making up numbers at home, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what they actually made. So you go, okay, so it's, 23 of these prints. Normally we like to make 2,000 a poster. We need to give them a price break. So let's say that we could do it for 1,000. So that's 23 grand. The first couple of posters might take us longer and feel more like $2,000 worth of work. But on the back end, once we're really smoking and we've got this all dialed in, those might feel like $500 worth of work for 1,000. So it could kind of catch up with itself. Is that sort of the mindset?
Yeah, that's exactly
totally.
how.
And I guess the other moving piece, and luckily they were great. I mean, they've been doing this for so many years. They're pretty dialed in into what can go wrong. They gave us a Google Doc so we could see, any given day what the next show is coming up, who's coming, who's going. But it fluctuates a lot. I mean, as you can imagine, some of these people they have on the show are hard to get a hold of and may not stay on board. So there were definitely a few cases where we had to, take someone's name out, put someone else in. Some of these we had months to think about it, and others it was like, shit, this person dropped out. We got this person coming in tomorrow. What can you guys do? So there was a little bit of juggling to do there too.
This is the thing that I always love to ask. When you look at work that's finished, you see the finished piece and you can understand how it gets constructed. But every job that you do has a unique story to it. Which one of these ended up being the most difficult one to put it together? And I am going to guess that it's probably not the one that looks the most difficult. Because sometimes it's just hard to hit something easy. So I'd love to know, which one did you guys struggle with the most?
It's not, you wouldn't guess based off where it landed.
Yeah.
But there was a set of posters that had to be redone multiple times.
Really?
Based off of all the filters that they went through.
So actually, I think the most difficult ones are the ones that you're not seeing here. The ones that we redid 3 or 4 times and then said, never mind, we're starting from scratch.
Yeah.
I mean, some of them were, it was interesting. Some like Meghan Trainor, we went through a few ideas first that we thought were super clever, but they thought not really right for her.
Do you know who Meghan Trainor's dad is?
What?
Do you know who Meghan Trainor's father is?
No.
I know this because Mark told me.
Comedian Rob Schneider.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Deuce Bigelow is her
Definitely
dad.
don't see the resemblance in any way.
Is that real?
Yeah. Go ahead, look it up. I see you not trusting me. I see.
Yeah, we're Googling.
I know the look of a window opening. I've done this enough. So
I mean, our first poster was just Rob Schneider's face, and I don't know why she was not into it. We nailed it on the head.
Meghan Trainor, you can do it. All right, so there's 3 or 4 of these that didn't see the light of day, and I'd just like to remind everybody, go to useposterart.com. We've got 3 or more designs that we just uploaded today.
Oh yeah, we own those posters now.
So out of the ones that we see, which one of these was the hard one?
So this says Meghan Trainor's father was a music teacher and musician and plays organ in a Methodist church.
Huh.
Yeah, Rob Schneider.
He has a famous pops. Hold on. Then
Are we talking
now let's look up-
biological or
You guys keep going. I'll
do it the other way around. Do it Rob Schneider's daughter.
All right.
It's like Rob Schneider has 18 daughters.
Isn't Meghan Trainor the one who's all about the bass?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
No Trouble. I thought that was her. I mean, he has a famous daughter that you wouldn't expect.
All right, I'll keep ticking.
All right, you keep ticking.
Okay.
Dan.
Well, to answer your question, the hardest were definitely Meghan Trainor. That was the third poster that we created for her, and that's where it landed. Kelly Clarkson was the same boat. Like, I think that's the third poster we landed with her. Actually, we had one where it was like a mic, and I think we did 8 versions or something like that of the same exact poster, just tweaking until they just like killed it because it just wasn't working.
Are you working for a flat fee per print? So those are all on your dime?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So basically at some points it's like we're going way overboard on terms of our time, but then we'll do another poster and it goes through no problem at all. And it's just a nice reminder that like it all evens out in the end. So yeah, there were several posters that just were like super easy and not to downplay like design, but like they went through super quick. And then plenty that also were, it mostly got held up by lawyers, you know, like the fear of what people could portray certain images to be.
See, that's so wild because for them to be like, I don't know, man, this microphone looks like a bomb. You're like, what's going on in your head to see that? Like,
more like
that's
more
what
like
Dan and I were saying constantly. Like, wait, you see that? What's going on with you?
Yeah,
like, that's on you, not on us. But okay.
Anything that had like a long cylindrical kind of vibe to it.
They didn't want anything that looked like a dick.
Yeah.
Yeah. All
right, I got an update for you here.
Yeah.
So Rob Schneider had a child with model London King, and the daughter is Elle King, and she's a pop singer.
There you go.
And she also played the role of Cookie Girl in Deuce Bigalow, Male Gigolo.
Oh, Cookie Girl.
She has that famous song "All About That Treble."
Yes, exactly. All about that mid-range.
When you do a poster for Kelly Clarkson, is it hard not to like be like, but her dad's Adam Sandler, and I need to make sure that I give her space?
Hang on, back to the recent
old fake news Brickley. So I'm so curious, like, what Meghan Trainor to me seems like such a sterile pop star. The Today Show seems like such a sterile place to go. Like, I don't see a lot of risk in there. What could you maniacs design? They're like, that's too crazy. Like, can you tell me what got thrown out?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. I mean, and this we saw a bit of a theme with a lot of the female artists is that anytime we pitched anything food related, which we did a lot of at first because summer is just such a we're just made this master list of all images of summer, whether that's like milkshakes or popsicles. But yeah, they kind of got uncomfortable with anything food related.
Wow.
Because, you know, they didn't want to make a comment about someone's weight or eating habits or anything like that. Yeah. And actually another note that we kind of got along the way was about, they didn't want this to be too childlike. You know, even though it's summer and fun, they wanted it to feel sophisticated and grown up to a certain extent.
It looks like adults on vacation.
Yeah, yeah. So that was a tricky line to walk too, because again, so much of stuff in our list of summer imagery is very much about, you know, sandcastles and stuff. So, and it was also, I mean, I'm sure you've dealt with clients like this too, where their feedback differs day to day.
Yeah.
And there's some stuff where we'd be like, here's 3 new posters, and we're kind of crossing our fingers. Like, I hope they don't see all the dicks that we hit in this one. And, you know, it all gets approved, no problem.
Yeah.
And then something else comes along. It's like, well,
types of dicks.
Yeah. Or even just color stuff, like some posters they thought were too dark and kind of moody. And we ended up brightening things up. But again, that's part of just getting in that flow of knowing the first few posters are going to be tough as we start to learn what their feedback is like. And I'd say the whole second half of this project, like the last 10 posters we did, there was hardly any any feedback or revisions or anything. It
Do you
started
think
going really smoothly.
Do you think that at the end it goes smooth because you guys have found the groove, or the dude's just tired with it? He's like, I just want this over with. Like,
Maybe a little bit of both. But I think, you know, at first we were really trying hard to shoehorn as much concept into things as we could, and somewhere it was like, well, this is layered on this, and this represents the band members and where they're from in Nantucket and blah blah blah. And with some of that, they're like, yeah, that's kind of too much for us. We just want something that looks cool. So, you know, we tried to get that double meaning in there when we could, but you know, if we just came up with something that looked cool and represented summer, more often than not, they were cool with that too.
When you turn something in like the Keith Urban Polaroid, with, you know, which is a really great poster, the Polaroid with the beach scene coming out of the bottom of it, does the legal team say, oh, this looks too much like Kodak? Like when you do the Volkswagen bus for Julia Michaels, you know, like when you sort of hit a pop culture item like that, or even the Fender bass that you have for Lester Holt. Well, I guess that's not a for real one, but when you hit something that's a part of pop culture, that's a well-known brand like that, do you get pushback, or they're like, just kind of do this so it doesn't look like that, or is that not something they care about because people are more worried about political correctness than brand infringement?
I think you nailed it. I mean, they didn't really comment on any of the potentially copywritten issues. It's more just the political correctness of how people are going to interpret the art.
And I think we've also done enough stuff for clients like this that we tried going into it to, you know, tweak things to make them a little on the generic side. Like if we're showing a smartphone, don't make it exactly like an iPhone, things like that.
Right, we're smart enough to know that.
I mean, but it doesn't have its logo. It's just things change.
But that's a good point. We really didn't have any issues with them with brand stuff. It was more on the significance and meaning to the artist. It seemed like they were kind of, you know, the first priority was making sure City was happy, and then the second priority was making sure the artist is going to be happy with how they're represented.
Which one of these was just the easiest one where you're like, I can't even believe it went that fast?
There's definitely a handful that were in that category. Well, like Darius Rucker, for example, went right through.
Yeah.
No problems.
That's just a solid print, too. It's not too complicated. Yeah. You got that New York City kickback in there. You had to put the Today Show logo in all of them, or did you just try to work it in where you could?
No, that wasn't a requirement. So it was kind of a Where's Waldo thing, too. So they actually liked it when it was integrated and more hidden.
Yeah.
So that was actually a fun part of it, where it's kind of like what we do with our DKNG logo, where we hide it in our prints. So it was that version for their logo.
So let me ask you guys this. What is it? It's an I saw it. Damn, it is funny to see how it's kind of hidden. Like the Troye Sivan one, I didn't realize it was the horns on the Ray-Bans. All right, so what's your favorite one? I know that I definitely have one that speaks to me the most, ironically. What's your favorite one?
It's funny that you're asking that, because I don't think Nathan and I have actually discussed what our favorites are yet, just because we literally now just put this on our site. But I've made some decisions on my own.
You can have your own opinion, Dan. That's fine.
And actually, some of them that I think might be my favorite didn't actually make the cut. So maybe I don't know if we have the technology to do this, but if we want to post a few just for Circle of Trust members to see some that didn't make the cut.
That'd be awesome. Yeah. And we'll put those over on useposterart.com.
Cool. Yeah, we got a sale going today.
The Panic at the Disco one I really like.
Really?
Because that was like really playing around with integrating the text within the flames. I thought that was fun. Had a lot of energy to it. The Keith Urban one I really like.
Yeah, I like that one.
Charlie Puth. I think that's like where exactly we wanted it to land in terms of concept development. And that's it. All the others I hate. Just kidding.
Ironically, the one that I like the most is the Jason Mraz. I really like that sunset inside the flip-flops. It's concept enough, but it's easy enough. It feels like summer. It feels like the Today Show. Like I really, really enjoyed that one a lot. I like the way that the color on that one works. Like to me, it's just the perfect amount of complicated.
I think Methane Studios commented on the poster on our Instagram post saying perfect concept.
Oh, that's awesome.
Really nice to see. It's funny because like Dan said, the very first one we ever did was the Lifeguard Tower, but for Jason Mraz as like a test run. So I got so used to months of seeing that as Jason Mraz that once we made it Shawn Mendes, it was kind of like, oh no, like this is sacred. We can't start swapping names around. And luckily we didn't have to do that too much. But yeah, it was interesting how you get familiar with one thing and then change it up.
What's your favorite, Nathan?
I really like the Meghan Trainor one. I mean, even though we went through a lot of versions, I think I really liked how that became so like three-dimensional and I think really nails the style while still being simple or minimal in some ways. And
it's by far the most rendered one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right.
And then like Troy Sivan was another cool one. That was one of the first or second ones that we did. And I think that was nice to see how the tone was set there, that it can be very basic if you strip away the gradients and the texture.
Yeah.
But once those things are in there, it has so much depth and it just felt like, okay, this is going to work. We can do the rest of the series now.
All right. Now, what's your least favorite one?
Mine is Lady Antebellum.
The fireworks.
The fireworks. I had like a fit.
Oh boy.
It's kind of one of these things where Dan's like, I'll do. It's like
I'll do it, but I'm not going to enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm not happy about this. I'll pay the ticket officer, but I am not in the wrong here.
Did you get forced into that one?
Say that again?
Did you get forced into that one?
Yeah, they kept on like pushing into the direction of simplicity of like we were really trying hard on like concept. That's the one that was completely changed. We had like cowboy boots in the beginning, and we like designed a scene within the boots, and it was starting to look pretty cool, but it was actually a really hard composition to pull off. And then eventually it was pretty much them saying, can we just do the city with fireworks above it? And then just the description alone made me feel like, well, that's just too easy.
Yeah.
And I think also Dan felt like, we have these kind of heavy objects and everything. Like, do fireworks have enough weight to carry this?
That
which
one
I don't
does
really
feel
mind
flimsy.
that one, how it turned out. I was going to say 5 Seconds of Summer is probably my least favorite, because just knowing where it started, we actually had that surfboard integrated as the wooden stick inside of a popsicle, and it had a whole other layer of meaning to it. And that was another one where they're like, yeah, but can you just do it without the popsicle? And it was like, well, we could, but that kind of sucks all the life out of it.
Yeah, so that just means a surfboard on a beach. And then we're like, well, let's put some concept into it. So we put the Rockefeller Center building within the design of the surfboard. And we're like, okay, I think we got it to a point where we like found a compromise. And even then they were like, just remove the building. Just like, we just want the surfboard.
Just give us a surfboard, damn it. Stop being an artist.
Yeah.
Ironically, my least favorite one is the Panic at the Disco.
That's funny. Where's your mind go when you see it?
I don't know. I remember seeing it and just being like, nah. I don't know. Like, I don't know if it's a feeling that I get from Panic at the Disco. Like, I don't have a problem with the way that the grill's rendered. Maybe it's the floating lid that maybe if it was just a hand that was holding it, but you don't have humans and anything else. Like, I don't know. There's just something about that one. It just, all the other ones have a nice silence to them. It's just the object sitting there. And that one, because it's like deconstructed and pulled apart, it breaks apart the storyline of everything else. It's the odd duck to me. That one and the Lady Antebellum are the odd ducks. So here's a little story for everyone on how Dan and I's friendship works. I wrote him at like 10:30 on a Friday night, which means Dan's definitely drunk. And I said, hey man, I just saw all the Aerosmith stuff. Like, people holding the signs, them playing, them holding up your artwork. Like, dude, you know how much I hate Aerosmith, but my love of DKNG is way more than my hatred of Aerosmith. And that's some serious, like, legendary stuff, man. Like, that's a day that you don't forget when, arguably one of the most notorious rock and roll bands in the history of American music and rock and roll is just parading around with all your stuff. Congratulations. And then to be a dickhead older brother that he never wanted, I hit him with the next text. Just don't forget, a Beatle wore a shirt that I designed to the Grammys. Boom! Boom! You got bricked.
Yeah. And that's when I was like, I'm not really sure how to respond to this. It's like, I almost want to be like, congratulations, Mark, for your success.
I just thought I was giving you a lot of compliments, so I thought kicking a little shade at you would be a fun way to bust balls.
Yeah, Dan, you should have been like, you could use the proceeds from that shirt to sign up for your third Netflix account.
I think my response was like, I would rather have your story because that sounds better. But
I mean, I just had to show you that an old dog could hunt. You know that. Hey, don't forget. Once when I was in my prime, I had hair. I was cool. I had things. All right. Let's jump into one more poster before we go behind the paid wall today. When we're back there, what we're going to do is we're going to look at 3 different process videos breaking down how DKNG put together their successful Leon Bridges poster. And they recently did some artwork that I think put a breath of fresh air into the Jack White poster series. It's been ongoing. In that poster series, even though we've talked about those prints over on the poster countdown, I'd like to get into the process of those because there's really some good wizardry that's going on, and hopefully they can break down how they do the voodoo and help us do a little bit of ourselves. But before we go into that for paid members only, what do you say we look at these phenomenal national posters that are coming out September 24th? These things are great. I mean, it's simple, it's complicated, it's got a rhythm to it. I can tell that it was fun to make. But when I look at the two of them side by side, I just think, man, to have the perfect living room for these to hang above your couch would, if you can't have a window, this would just be, this is just really, really good modern poster art at its core. The type, the illustration, the rhythm, the flow, it's not too crazy. It's not too out there. Like, this is everything that the generation before us didn't do, and it's everything about the movement that you guys are a part of. So I thought you really, really knocked it out of the park with these 2 national prints.
Thanks, man.
Don't forget, I did a poster for the National 2 back in the day.
I mean, never mind. I don't appreciate the compliment anymore. We always get excited for the National because we've kind of created our own internal series with them. Like, every single time we've worked with them, we've created this aerial viewpoint
and transportation
for the poster. Yeah, and knowing that they had a 2-night show in LA where it kind of just came to us as like, there is no other concept. We want to do the freeways. And it was a geometric wet dream, that's for sure.
This is a fictional highway?
Yeah, we debated. We had like a first email where I was just going onto Google Maps and just screenshotting every single intersection I can find that was somewhat interesting.
Yeah,
all the loop-de-loos.
It's kind of a hybrid. Like we kept going back and forth. Like 40510 is pretty cool, but the 11010, like that interchange has like these things that we like. So
the 11010
definitely
is stacked so high that when you're on the bottom level and you're driving through, you're like, I'm driving through a skyscraper made of humans and cars right now. Like it.
Yeah, totally.
I always turn my if I'm filming for a vlog that day, I always make sure that the GoPro's on so that I get the footage of going inside that beast. Cause you're like, I'm going into the Death Star right now.
This poster is mostly based off of that intersection. We definitely doctored it up to make it fill in the space nicely. But I think what you're seeing here is like the horizontal would be the 10 and the vertical would be the 110.
I enjoy that there's symmetry between the two, but it's not an exact make a poster, flip a poster.
Yeah. This is essentially designing one big poster.
Yeah, of course. And then just
linking them together.
Chop it. Danny, cut here.
So it was I would say a good amount of the time was spent just planning it, getting it to be in the place that it is, because once it's set in stone and we move into rendering and shadows, like it's not an easy fix to just remove and tweak one road. Like everything's touching each other and linked.
So I remember struggling with these design decisions. You've got the highway shown where it's lit up by, obviously all the cars have headlights, but you also have like the amber like warm spots, which would be where the street lights or the highway lights are shining down below. And a friend of mine once pointed out when we were on tour, he said, look how ridiculous America is. He goes, look how tall those lights are. There's no reason for them to be as tall as they are. But, so from overhead, that light really adds the charm to this print, and it makes the coloring of it fantastic. But you chose to draw the light, but not the light source. Because it would probably look like nothing from above or complicate it. Tell me about that decision.
I mean, that's exactly it. Like, we actually looked at what that would look like.
Yeah.
And in reality, you don't really see much because it either blows itself out or you just see like a silhouette that basically at this scale would look like a dot.
Yeah.
So it's like, why just complicate things and throw these dots in there? So we took liberties with like how this would look like in real life and how it'll look best as a poster. And obviously like the ground would also have a lot going on.
Trash,
and, like buildings,
tents.
yeah, lots of, just homeless people everywhere. So it was kind of a combination of taking what we know from a reality and then designing it into what would look best for a print.
Yeah, because
we did look at a version where we showed the actual lights, and it just kind of like what we were talking about with the Today Show. At a certain point, things get too busy for the style that you're going for.
Right.
And looking at these aerial photos of what freeways look like, the lights themselves are so small that you really just see the pools of light that they're casting rather than the thing that's creating the light. So it's a little counterintuitive, but it took a lot of back and forth to dial this in.
Well, I always enjoy when you find the balance of there's enough here where it feels real, but HOV lanes missing, emergency lanes are missing. Like there's a lot of like sort of the structure of the highway system that's gone, but what is here is enough to create the emotion. And I always think about, man, when I'm driving into the city and those airplanes are coming into LAX, I'm like, man, what it must look like from above, just all these little ants. And whenever I fly into the city, I always look out the window and go, yeah, I'm like 15 minutes away from being one of those. Are you on a cocaine bender there, Dan? What were you doing with your face?
I swear to God, this has been going on for a week, but we got a mosquito problem, and they like follow me into my fucking office, and I say they, but there's like just this one asshole that just like bites me, and then I swat it away, and then it comes back like 5 minutes later and bites me in another spot. And I'm just like dancing over here trying to like have a conversation with you guys, but like I'm getting like eaten alive.
On TV shows when they're like, is that real Coke? Is that Coke good? And the guy takes the little bit of the cocaine and he like rubs it on his gums, and then he like makes the reaction face like, oh, this is pure stuff. You just did that. I'm like, is Dan doing cocaine while we're doing the show this morning? Because your face bugged out, but I didn't know it was Ron the mosquito.
Getting a mosquito like head rush each time, like, oh shit, yeah.
That mosquito's being like, you know what I love about that guy's blood? It's just enough cilantro in there to really set off the salsa.
Dan, or Mark, it's funny that you brought up that what you see from an airplane, because I remember like 10 years ago, we were working with our buddy, this band, 7 Saturdays, and I had this idea of like, what if we do an aerial view of LA with like that you see this cool color scheme of the amber lighting from the sodium vapor lights and then the blue lights from all the cars. And it just, I really have always liked that color palette. But yeah, we've never really come up with a way to do it until now. This is the first time we've really approached it.
Isn't it funny how you have one of these things that is on your fantasy list of things to do, but you just don't find the right project? And when you finally get to do it, you're like, I can't believe I'm really building a highway today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember that conversation, Nathan, that as much as I love that idea, what was running through my head is like, that just sounds too hard. And it took like 8 years or more to get to the point where like I get excited about it, and now it's a fun thing to do.
I would like an isometric version of this from Upside Down.
Shut the fuck up.
Hey, Nathan, is it you doing the typography on these?
Yeah.
You nailed it, buddy. The hierarchy in there, the little design tricks, like the September 21 and 20 being in that box that's attached to the line that breaks down the opening act, like the different use of fonts and structure. Like, to me, this is primo perfect typography because it's type that talks. Every piece has its own little signature, but yet matches the pieces around it. Like, it doesn't feel like typing. It feels like it's talking to you. And I love that you guys have the shadow curving over the type just to make it feel like it's not floating, but that it's actually, down below the illustration that we're looking at. I love tricks like that. So I think you just really nailed it, which adds to the simplicity of this design.
So
Thanks. That was definitely Dan on the shadows, but yeah, just on the type, I was going to mention that. I kind of did an early version of just stacking it and left it pretty simple. And then I thought, is there a way to make this more interesting, but without adding so many details that it's going to not fit in? So I tried to just spend some time with each element to give it a little something without, going crazy with it.
So does this mean Nathan doesn't have to go to court to defend his type this time?
Speaking of court,
I actually never even listened to that because I was too scared to listen to it.
speaking of court, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's a big legal battle that's going on right now. And we've been talking about it on the show. We'll talk about it more tomorrow. But it seems that Hanukkah Steve, he tried to copyright Hanukkah, which he thinks that he owns it. He owns the term. Like, you can't do that. That's the people's. That's the chosen people's term. You can't own that. But he thinks that he's got a good cause because, according to him, he's the reason for the season. And obviously, no Jewish lawyers will take his case. So he's got Leon, the Southern lawyer, representing him. So the two characters on this show are right now tied up in the People versus Hanukkah Steve. And we don't even know when it's going to wrap up. So hopefully they'll be back for the holiday special, but who knows? Because the two of them, they're in deeper than Manafort right now. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I just heard that there's a new season of the podcast Serial coming out, and I didn't realize it was about this Hanukkah Steve situation, but I'm looking forward to checking that out.
All right, let's get into the Circle of Trust. Let's look at 3 process videos on our all poster show with DKNG. Real quick, I have a question. Dan, what are you doing? It's Friday. What are you doing today?
Well, I'm thinking about playing hooky on work.
That goes into what I'm getting ready to ask you. What kind of commitments do you have with your beautiful bride?
Probably drinking together and going to dinner.
Do you think you could mention to your bride, like, don't you want to kind of go see your sister and the baby? I think I need a guy's night.
Oh, yeah, I could do that too.
What I'm saying, Dan, is this.
Uh-huh.
Let's blow it all off. Let's go to Disneyland. Let's go to Disneyland today. Spur the moment. Let's do it,
Get
man.
in the car.
Huh?
Get in the car right now. Let's just keep recording. I'll be right there.
Hey, guys, no Circle of Trust content this week. Let's do it, man. Let's do it. Hey, you come down here and we go. I got your ticket.
Oh shit!
I got some free tickets in the top drawer of my desk. Come on, man. It's Halloween in the park. Let's do it. You can rip a churro.
Shit, it is Halloween in the park. They're starting already, huh?
Oh, it's Halloween as fuck there right now. All right, let's get into the Circle of Trust. We're going to look at 3 posters, 3 process videos, and Dan is going to give me an answer of what we're doing. And then I'm going to call Debbie on the show and be like, hey, it's your minister. All right, let's get into the Circle of Trust right now. Thank you so much for signing up. Thank you so much for becoming a member and supporting AID and bringing the DKNG show to you each and every month. Don't forget that the national prints will go on sale next Monday. That's Monday, September 24th. The boys will be back next month in October, early October, when we talk about a new series and a new sale that they have that's coming up. So you'll want to definitely jump in to see how they've taken a very simple concept but turned it up and made it something very, very fun. All that will be coming up next month. But right now, what's coming up is Leon Bridges. Hey friends, if you've made it this far and you're not a member of the Circle of Trust, thank you so much for listening. And I would really try to encourage you to consider signing up for the second part of today's episode. We have 90 more minutes of show left for you. We break down 3 other process videos where they really go through the details and explain the different parts of the creative thinking and the actual technique that's done. Then, as I promised, at the very end of the show, we talk about something shady that went on with their web store and how they'll combat it in the future. It's the type of honest conversation and dialogue that you're only going to hear on AID. These are the type of things that I think that you will find if you signed up, make it well worth 50 cents an episode. That number is so absolutely small, and every day I come to bat with information that'll help you make way more than 50 cents. The way that DKNG protects themselves moving forward with their web store, that type of information, this type of dialogue, it's invaluable. Or it is priced at a monthly subscription at AIDpodcast.com. If this is where we part ways, thank you for hanging out. DKNG will be back in October. I'll be back tomorrow with Billy Ballman, where we talk about the recent racist illustration that went out about Serena Williams. We talk about a company that owes his company $10,000 in the Circle of Trust and what he's doing to try to figure out how to get that money back. You don't hear that type of stuff anywhere else. And we also explore the ego that you should or shouldn't have when you go into a meeting. Do you hope for it to work out? Expect the worst? Do you expect nothing? Do you think that it's going to happen? Tomorrow, Billy and I and the listeners, we work through what's the mindset of going into a meeting. All of that is tomorrow. There's so much coming your way. Unlock it all today at AIDpodcast.com. Over 800 episodes to entertain and educate you. Good day, good design.